2 in the morning, an empty barracks hallway in a South Korean army base, combat boots, footsteps in the dark. A recruit lifts his flashlight and follows the sound. It rounds the corner. He turns the corner. There's nobody there. The next morning, he asks the other recruits. They all give him the same answer. Private Kim on the second step. Every Korean recruit hears some version of this story, in every base, for decades. And every Korean man, including the ones you know from K-pop, BTS, 17, all of them, has spent 18 months in a place where these stories are told. There are two kinds of stories about the Korean military. The ones everyone has heard, and the ones nobody talks about outside the barracks. This is the second kind. Today, the anonymous Korean is going to walk you through it. 18 months, same haircut, same trays, same haunted hallways. Every Korean man has done it. Almost none of them have ever explained it. Start with the system, because the system is what you have to understand first. Every able-bodied South Korean man, between the ages of 18 and 28, is required by law to serve in the military for at least 18 months. No exceptions. Not for K-pop stars, not for Olympic athletes, not for the sons of presidents. If you've watched DP on Netflix, the show about military police chasing down deserters, you've seen a version of this system. Most non-Koreans watched it as fiction. Koreans watched it as a documentary. Why does Korea still do this? The answer is in 1953. That's the year the Korean War didn't end. It paused. A ceasefire was signed. Technically, Korea is still at war with North Korea today. So every Korean man has 18 months of his life owed to a country that is still, on paper, at war. That's a hard thing to convince a 20-year-old to accept. In 2024, a 26-year-old Korean man decided he didn't want to accept it. So he did something extraordinary. He destroyed his own body, on purpose. He doubled his food intake every day. He drank twice the water. He let himself swell for months until he hit 102 kilograms, 225 pounds, on a 5'6" frame. When he showed up for his second draft physical, he was no longer classified as fit for combat. The Korean government, true to its word, reassigned him to non-combat administrative duty at a government office, exactly as the law allows for men of his weight class. And then, 1 year later, they convicted him of evasion. 1 year in prison, suspended for 2. The friend who helped him plan the weight gain also went to court. The fact that a Korean man would rather destroy his own body than serve, and that the government would rather send him to prison than let it work, tells you something about what's actually waiting inside. Let me walk you through a day inside. 6:30 a.m., lights up, roll call, bodies in the hallway. Then a run, outside, in formation, in sweats, before breakfast. Breakfast is a tray, white rice, a bowl of soup, kimchi, 2 or 3 side dishes. The same tray, more or less, every single morning. There's a Korean dish called Budae jjigae. In English, army stew. A spicy hot pot of spam, sausage, baked beans, kimchi, and instant ramen. It's a national comfort food now. But here's where the name comes from. After the Korean War, food was scarce. There were U.S. military bases in towns like Uijeongbu, just north of Seoul. The American bases had food. The Koreans around them didn't. So Korean cooks started buying leftover scraps from the bases and, in the worst of it, picking food out of the U.S. military trash. Cigarette butts in the mix were common. The Korean sociologist Grace M. Cho called the dish, in academic terms, a culinary travesty and an iconic symbol of U.S. imperialism. The food situation has improved. The architecture of who eats what and when has not. Inside a Korean barracks, the toilets are cleaned by the new recruits. The sergeants, the men finishing their service, never clean a toilet. They serve their time on their knees. Now somebody else does it. The Korean Army has 4 enlisted ranks: Ebyong, Private; Ilbyong, Private First Class; Sangbyong, Corporal; Byongjang, Sergeant. You don't move through them by skill. You move through them by time, by the order in which you arrived, by your enlistment cohort. 3 months older in the system makes you the boss of the man next to you. The same age, the same university. But 3 months earlier, and he is your father. Where does this hierarchy come from? 2 things. The Japanese colonial military, which trained the first generation of Korean officers in absolute obedience, and South Korea's compressed modernization, 60 years of catching up to 2 centuries of Western industrialization, all run on discipline. Ask any Korean man who served. He'll tell you the same thing. The scariest thing in the army wasn't the enemy. It was a senior soldier who'd enlisted 3 months before him. 80% of happiness in the Korean military is in one place: the PX, the base convenience store. A bowl of instant ramen, eaten on a plastic stool for 30 minutes once a week, is the best feeling most recruits will have for 18 months. Leave comes in 3 forms: ochul, a few hours off base; obak, a weekend out; hyuga, your real vacation. When a Korean soldier finally walks out of the gate, still in uniform, the first 3 places he goes are predictable: a PC gaming cafe, a fried chicken restaurant, and, if he has one, his girlfriend. In 2020, something happened to the Korean military that nobody saw coming. February 25th, 2020. A Korean recruit posted a photograph on a Facebook group. The group's name translated roughly to the Alternate Military Complaints Department. Soldiers posted in it anonymously, mostly small grievances, cold showers, rude superiors. This time, the post was a photo of a meal tray, a pile of plain white rice, a few sheets of dried seaweed, one unidentifiable piece of processed meat. That was the entire breakfast. A few days later, the man who ran the Facebook group answered a knock on his front door. A stern-looking stranger was standing there. He introduced himself as a military investigator. By that point, the photo had already detonated across Korean social media, Twitter, online communities. Parents of conscripts saw it and called their representatives. The president of South Korea issued a public apology. The military overhauled its meal program. But the strange part isn't the apology. The strange part is the question. How did a recruit, locked inside a barracks, post anything to Facebook in the first place? The answer is that 2 years earlier, the Korean military had quietly started doing something unprecedented in its 70-year history. It had begun letting rank-and-file soldiers carry their own smartphones inside the base. Stop and consider this for a second. The Korean military, the institution Western journalists had compared to Lord of the Flies, the system of absolute hierarchy and physical hazing, the same barracks that had been sealed off from the outside world for 30 years, now had Instagram in it. Non-Korean reactions tend to fall into a predictable pattern. Wait, that military gets smartphones? Why did this happen? Why would the most rigid army in the developed world hand its conscripts the one tool guaranteed to undermine its hierarchy? Look at the numbers. In 1993, the Korean military reported 343 total deaths. The following year, 1994, it was 416. 155 of those deaths were suicides. Throughout the 90s, deaths from suicide alone stayed above 100 a year. Every year. There were hazing scandals, shooting sprees inside bases, soldiers killing fellow soldiers. Korean society stopped tolerating it, and the military's own internal reviews started to admit something uncomfortable. The soldiers were dying because they had no way out, no way to report up, no way to call home, no way to ask for help without being identified by the same hierarchy that was abusing them. The smartphone changed that. By the early 2020s, military suicides had dropped to around 50 per year. Hazing reports went up because, for the first time, soldiers could submit them anonymously with photographic evidence from inside the barracks. The Korean military's most consequential weapon in its entire post-war history wasn't a rifle. It was a 6-inch screen with a camera on the back. But there's one thing that smartphones didn't change. One ritual that's outlasted the reforms, the Facebook posts, the meal program overhauls, everything. Bulchimbion, the night watch. Every recruit in every Korean base takes a shift of 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night. Awake, alone, walking the barracks while everyone else sleeps. It's the oldest ritual in the institution. And every Korean man has done it. And every Korean man, sooner or later, comes back from one of those shifts with the same kind of story. Many Korean military installations are built on land that was once a battlefield. The 1950 Korean War, the earlier Japanese colonial garrisons, the DMZ patrol routes where men died in border incidents in the 60s and 70s. The barracks sit on top of all of it. Along the DMZ, soldiers on patrol describe the same encounter. A figure walking toward them out of the fog. The radio cuts out. The temperature drops. The shape steps back into the mist and is gone. A soldier, somewhere in the chain of memory, still walking his last patrol forever. Inside the barracks, empty hallway, combat boots on the floor, the sound of someone walking. There's nobody there. The Korean soldiers who've heard it all give the apparition the same name. Private Kim on the second step, still standing his post. 2014, a construction site at a Korean army base. An old man in white traditional Korean clothing drifted through the half-built barracks at night. The soldiers who saw him reported the same description. The base commander didn't have an answer for it. Why does the Korean military have so many of these stories? Korean psychologists who've studied the phenomenon are unusually direct about the answer. It's isolation, plus sleep deprivation, plus hierarchical pressure, plus the constant suppression of fear. Korean military ghost stories are group therapy and camouflage. They're a way for 19-year-old men who aren't allowed to admit they're terrified to talk about being terrified by attributing the fear to a ghost. Inside the system, recruits don't argue about whether the ghost is real. They argue about whose version is the truest one. The fear is real. The framing is folklore. The folklore is how 19-year-olds survive the fear. It's not an accident that the most disciplined army in the developed world also has the most haunted barracks. The two things are the same thing. One last thing, before we close. The recruit drill instructor I mentioned earlier, the one at the 5th Infantry Division, north of Seoul, near the North Korean border. The one waking up at 6:30 a.m. every day to lead 19-year-olds through their first weeks of basic training, shaving their heads, teaching them how to fire a rifle, running them through the marches. 18 months. He held the title of elite soldier, an honorary distinction given to men who excelled across 7 different training categories. He was promoted to sergeant 4 months ahead of schedule. He earned 8 separate commendations. His name in the Korean Army roster was Kim Seok-jin. The rest of the world knew him by a different name. Jin, the eldest member of BTS, and he isn't the only one. The cook at the 5th Infantry Division, the one preparing hundreds of meals every day for the same recruits Jin was training, was also promoted early. The Korean Army's official records list him by his civilian name, Jeon Jong-guk. The world knows him as Jungkook. The soldier in the elite special duty team of the 2nd Division Military Police, the counterterrorism unit nicknamed the Double Dragons, completed his training with a cracked rib and was awarded the title Special Warrior. That was Kim Tae-hyung, via Billboard #1 artists, a billion-dollar pop group, all of them getting up at 6:30 a.m., eating off the same tray, walking the same night watch hallways, some of them almost certainly hearing the same footsteps. In Korea, this is normal. It's the one thing every Korean man shares, regardless of who he becomes. The boy you went to high school with, the CEO of the company you work for, the wedding guest sitting next to you at a Korean wedding when the conversation inevitably turns to the army. Korean men's conversations almost always end up in the army, where you served, what unit, what year, what it was like. Because 18 months, same haircut, same trays, same haunted hallways, is the one thing that 51 million Koreans have to agree on. So the next time you scroll past a photo of a Korean star with his head shaved, in uniform, walking into a base near the North Korean border, understand that you're not watching a celebrity event. You're watching the same 18 months that nearly every Korean man you've ever known has lived through. The same boots in the hallway, the same instant ramen at the PX, the same footsteps at 2 a.m. that nobody can explain. If your country has mandatory military service, Israel, Singapore, Switzerland, anywhere, drop your version in the comments. I want to hear what your barracks were like. I'm the Anonymous Korean, and this is But Why Korea. I'll see you next time.